Hello everybody and welcome to this tutorial in which I'm going to show you how we can take this Fusion 3D model, export everything to Blender, set up our scene, and then create this rendering. All the reference images and textures are in the link in the description of the video. And with all that said, let's get going. Now in Fusion, all we have to do is to export all our geometry. That means I can export the shells, then the legs, and then the upholstery. To export, it's actually pretty easy. I select the upholstery object here, right click, then I go to Save as Mesh. I will select OBJ as the format and meter for the unit system. So the size of the Fusion model goes into Blender exactly at the same dimension. The refinement we want to be high. This is for final rendering. We can also go with low if we want to do like a quick rendering. These are not very complex models, so we can go with high. Click OK. I will bring this to my desktop and call this object upholstery and save. Very good. Since we are in Fusion, I will simply continue exporting all the individual objects right from here. I call this one shell 1 because that is the first chair. And then here, that is the leg system for the first chair. There we are. So this is now going to be shell 2. Or I can just go with the naming, that's fine. That's the sled base. So you see this actually goes pretty fast. And save as mesh. There's the base for the wooden dolls. Unfortunately, you can't select multiple objects and export them as individual files. So we just do this here one by one. We have actually quite a lot of objects. So in this case, this takes a second longer, but normally this is actually pretty fast. I mean, we're nearly done there. The last shell. There we are. And here's our base. Very good. Save as mesh. Perfect. Very good. Beautiful. So we're actually done with everything inside Fusion. Let's go to Blender. We're in Blender now. This is the basic interface at the beginning. I left mouse button click, I press A, X, and delete these buttons I don't need. I run very fast through this process to show you how to use it. We don't need this animation panel here. So right click on this border, join, left mouse button click, and drag down. Let's set up our environment. We want cycles for rendering, that's photorealistic. We want fast preview renderings and denoise them at 5 steps, and then 100 for the final rendering. That's okay. We also want to have nice color management, so we can set this to high contrast. In Fusion, we worked with Imperial. So here we go to Imperial. Separate units and inches where we can work with. Very good. Now let's go to the top view. There we are. We would like to bring in our exported geometry. Go to Import and then Wavefront OBJ. Desktop. And then with the Control key, holding in left mouse button, I can select all these individual objects. So these are all the OBJ exports, which we will import by Y being forward and Z being up. There we are. Beautiful. Cool. To create a nice organization and move our objects precisely around, if you click on an object, you will see the object center point is always there. So press R, and then you see how this rotates around always the center point. By the way, when you press R and you don't want to rotate anymore, you can just simply press the right mouse button or escape to cancel that command. To make objects rotate around their center, we can press A, and then to select everything, right mouse button click, and then say move the origin to the geometry of each object. And there you see now these dots are all at the center. That is much better. Very good. Cool. Here I will switch the outliner to the image editor, because the easiest way to get started with rendering is to take a look at photographs and study them, so we have a guide to rebuild. I go open desktop, and there's, for example, reference 1. Middle mouse button is pan around, mouse wheel zoom in and out, control spacebar full screen. So if you take a look at this, it's actually quite nice. We can see the drop shadows at where the legs actually touch the ground. That tells us where the lights are. Drop shadow goes to the right, there's a light on the left. Drop shadow goes to the left, there's a light on the right. Drop shadow this way, that maybe is an indicator there's a light either above or in the back. We can also pay attention to how much something is only glossy or reflective, or how blurry the reflection or how clear the reflection is. I will open this here, for example, and zoom into this position. That's quite nice because you can see how the backrest is kind of like silky, like sandblasted. There's a little bit of reflection, but it's very blurry. We don't have clear reflections like here. These photos are also a very good study to take a look at what really can be white and what can be black. I find that the black here is a little bit too dark, makes it look like a black hole. Possibly that can be correct, but they're too black. They jump out too much. Maybe a dark gray would have been a little bit better. This is also here a nice photo because it shows you the material of the legs. This is actually plastic. You see how nicely diffused that is. Light comes from the right side, one drop shadow. It's pretty dark actually. Look how reflective the ground only is. So even such a photo is actually very useful to understand. So if I would rebuild something like this, I would build the room, add a light to the right side, put the furniture in, add textures, and that's it. Let's take a look at this image. And this is also quite interesting. Here you see this is black, and the rest is actually pretty glossy. Now you can see this. It's really high glossy. And then the shell is actually more sandblasted. Again, also pay attention to the drop shadows there. Okay, so we're going to use this as a reference. This is a quite nice composition with the different chairs being at different orientations and talking to each other. Quite fun. Okay, so Control spacebar to go back from full screen to here. How do we do this now? First thing is we want to go to select and then move and bring everything over to the center a little bit. Okay. Then left mouse button shift, I can select all this, go to the top view and shift D, click R and maybe click, select all this, G and R, and rotate a little bit. Because I'm in top view, when I press R for rotate, it's along the Z axis. If I'm in this view and press R, you see this is not really what I want. To rotate this along the Z axis while I am in rotate mode, I can press the Z key. and then rotate around it. Here, let's say we make a stacking chair. So Shift D and Z, move this up till it doesn't intersect, then move this a little bit forward so these don't intersect. But unfortunately here it does intersect. We simplified actually the design of that slat base, so that is okay. All good. Perfect. Yeah, that's good enough. Top view, AA, so deselect everything. B, select all this, or move this maybe to there. Then AAB, drag over this, G, go to there, AAB, select this, R, Shift D, and then RZ 180 and enter. So with R, I went into rotate along the Z axis 180 degrees and enter. See, I mirrored it perfectly. Cool. Okay, now we take a look at this. There we can see how this kind of like starts to work already. Not too bad. AAB, select all this, maybe get this a tick closer. AAB, zack. We need to have a backdrop. So Shift A, add a plane, press S, click S and X, click, then move this maybe over. We go into edit mode. We select these edges, E and Z, move this up. I can move this also over via the move tool, or I press G and Y in this case. Okay. I would like this edge to be rounded. Leave edit mode. We go to the modifier. Then there we go to bevel. Let's say 1 foot. Oh, this 1 foot looks really big. Why? What's happening? Actually, this way you can get kind of funny accidents. Like, this looks actually kind of funny how this is intersected. Could be a nice rendering, and that's not what we want. So what's wrong here? This is definitely not 12 inches. Click on this triangle or press N. We scaled the object and it has a scale factor. We go back to 1. Now see, that's 1 foot. By scaling this up, we also scaled 12 inches multiplied by these values. That's the reason why this is so big. So this geometry has a scale factor applied. To fix this, we go to Object Apply Scale. There. 10 pieces. So segments, you see here, this is different segments. Makes it smoother. And 0.6, right click and shade smooth. Maybe 2 feet, maybe a little bit further back. Go into edit mode, ASX. We make this a little bit wider, this a little bit more forward. There we are. There's our backdrop. Cool. Exit edit mode. We now need a camera. So we go to add camera. There it is. This camera we click and drag and reset to 0. X-axis is 90 degrees. I would like to have a nice view onto my objects. Right click on this border, horizontal split. Right click on this border, vertical split. And then here we click onto the camera icon. I can press N and T to get rid of these toolbars. Now I can move this camera a little bit further away. Let's go to the camera. So that's a 50 millimeter. 35 is actually not 35 millimeter. The lower the value, the more fisheye effect we have, and the higher the value, the more tele effect we have. Let's go 75. There. Cool. I do not want, if I go to a side view, to rotate the camera down so I can see the stuff, because it's, we're looking down. That's not good. So keep this at 90. I like what I see with the chairs here. So now, because we're doing digital photography, to be honest, we can slide the image plane down. This is not rotating the camera. This is a tilt shift effect. There, there, very good. All looks pretty good. This one here looks a little bit alone, like nobody wants to play with that chair. So I will press B and select all this. This one is still selected, so B and middle mouse button, drag over it so it's deselected. Or also if you want to use more the selection tool with this one, you can click and drag and select, and then here subtract from the selection. There we are. Let's see, what can we do? Yeah, there. Get this a little bit closer. There, the legs are touching. Then B, select everything. B, middle mouse button. Bring this all to the center. AA, deselect all. Pretty cool. Okay. It's always a good point while we work to do saves. That's your best friend. So Herman Miller Poly Chair Rendering. I saved this on the desktop. Save. Very nice. Okay. Nice. Let's go to the world and we set this to white and 1. And then in this view, we press Z and render. They were rendering. Very nice, no? This is basically the world. Think about like a huge dome of light that emits from all directions the light onto our object. Let's go and actually start adding materials. So I click this one and then go view, frame selected, so I can zoom into this part more easily. And this we, for example, can make, let's say red. Go to material, base color, and there's a nice red. Wow, there we see this. Or click on the color, eyedropper, and we just get the color from there. Here, we do the same. There. By the way, you notice these are actually different material names. This is from Blender. So this is, for example, seed shell, whoops, red. And then this is star base. Okay. Then this one's a little bit more complicated because of the words. We do this last. Then let's go to here. So this is maybe seed blue. And sample it. There we are. This one will have the same material. See, they're actually our copy. So they use it. See, there are 2 copies. Here I will give this an orange color. Sorry, that yellow color. There we are. Beautiful. Cool. Okay. And maybe seed yellow. Here these legs are actually make also yellow. So to have the same color, I can go to the shell, go to here, then Control C for copy, go to here, Control V and paste that in. Very nice. You see actually how we are slowly theming everything. This one I know from the study is actually kind of like a gray. There we are. And yeah, here, make this also a gray chair. So now it's a question, how do we do the wood? Seed gray, very good. That's actually, we can just, let's say, base gray. And then this is wooden dowel. Okay. Wooden dowel 2, because there, so that's a different one. Now you see here, these are actually all individual materials, which is kind of okay. So let's go to our shader editor. Essentially, what the shader editor here is the same what we see here, just as a flow chart. Might be intimidating at the beginning. It's pretty easy to understand. So along this leg, or over this leg, we would like to have a wood texture. So we can click on this image, or this icon here, go to image texture, open, and there's the oak texture. And you see everything I do here automatically happens here. I'm going to delete this one with X. Add texture, image texture, and then connect this. You see also here it's the same. And there. Beautiful. Okay, very good. You, and you, and you, and you, and you should all use the same material like this one. So this is the last that's selected. It's also more highlighted. Now you can go to Object, Link Materials, or press Ctrl L, it's the shortcut. And you see now they all use exactly the same material. It's used 8 times. When we zoom into, that looks kind of, naja, something is wrong. Okay, so we have to unwrap it. So think about the unwrapping like you take a cardboard box and you cut the seams open and you unfold it. With this one selected, we go to the UV editor. Then we load the oak. Then here we go into edit mode, press A, zoom out, and there you see there's actually our unwrapped flat texture. So it's way too big. There you see this is how small this image is. This is how big the geometry is. So that's the reason why it's tiled over it. So what we will do here instead is we go ahead. We need to scale actually this image down. Go to texture coordinates. Then map, where is it? Vector mapping. So UV is like this X and Y coordinate system, UV. This goes to there. Nothing is really different, but no, pay attention to when we set this to 10. Whoa, it's super tiny. Okay, what happens when we may say 0.1? Ah, much bigger. Okay, very good. Maybe 0.01. Okay, that is actually a little bit too big, 0.1. So you see actually that this is the two-dimensional coordinate system. Then we scale this one down, and then basically that means the image is being scaled up. If this is a tick too complicated, let me show you another way. So we keep this at 1. I leave the edit mode and I select all these legs. Okay, there we are. Very good. Then I go into edit mode. The nice thing about Blender is when you are selecting multiple objects and go into edit mode, you can select all. Press A. They're all my legs, all at the same time. I can press A, S, and now I'm scaling this down. There, and there. And then I can position this to there. And Z and render there. This looks better. So if I go back to edit mode, there we can see now this image is bigger than the geometry. So think about this as a sticker that's being rolled over the leg from one side over the other side. I'm only going to do this with the two front. So if I select this one and go to edit mode, you see where the stuff is. If I go to this one, go to edit mode, it's on the opposite side. To have, for example, different variations, here I can move this up a little bit. This is this the back leg? Yes, it is. This one I move to there. And then here, I move this one maybe to here. So this way, it's the same image, but we use different parts of the image, so the legs don't look like copy and paste. Okay, very good. Let's go back to the camera view. This we don't need anymore, so we can go back to the 3D viewport. We can select this leg here, and that should be, let's say, steel. Now we can actually start looking into the reflection and all the stuff. So to make this metallic reflection, we have something called metallic. If I zoom in, doesn't really look very like chrome. Well, that's because this is also very rough. So we lower this, you see, then there we get the reflection. No, there we see it. Okay. We can make this perfectly smooth, or 0.1. There's a little bit of roughness to it. I select here this plastic shell. Now, this is plastic, this is not metallic. To make it look like plastic, we can work the specular reflection. When you go with your mouse over the setting here, it tells you there is 0, no reflection, 0.5 is standard, and then 1 is double the amount of reflection if you want to think about it this way. So 0.5. We don't really see any reflections. Well, also here, because this is very rough, so if we lower this, there, look at there, we get actually reflection on it. And when we play with this roughness, it makes this rougher. See? Look, that's actually how you get this satin look. We can artificially also lower the strength of the reflection. It's up to you. So it's actually pretty easy to do. So here, this is now, what did we use? Let's go with easy numbers, 0.4. Also here, 0.4, 0.5. There, you see on the back, there's a little bit of reflection going on. This actually should be kind of like steel that is painted with a high glossy material. So this case 0.1, but it's not metal. It's a non-metal material. So we still use the specular for the reflection. There you can see it, how it reflects actually everything. So that's pretty good. If we don't really like this color, I don't know, maybe sample this one that looks nicer and then copy this color, select the shell and paste the color. Yeah, that looks nicer. Very good. 0.4 and 0.5. And then here we set this is 0.1 and 0.5 because it's like very reflective. Yeah, look at this. Yeah, let's do a reference check. Oh, look at that. No, very, very similar. It's actually a little bit more blurry, so 0.3. Okay. You see what I thought first looked good is actually not really what we have in the photo. Let's go 0.2. This is actually red. Here it's black. So let me show you how we can do this. I press Z and then go solid view with this piece selected, go into edit mode. Side view, there we are. Then Z and wireframe. I'm using the mouse wheel to move here forward and backwards, or you can select basically in every viewport these options. Then B for brush select and sorry, for border select all this, and we need to add a new material. Plus new, let's say star base axis and assign. Assign actually now assigns this material to that selected set of faces. This should be kind of like dark, not black. We can leave edit mode Z and render. Because if we make this black, you see this is pitch black. Specular here, maybe 0.2 or something. Yeah, very good. And when we increase this a little bit, you see it still looks black, but it's not as a black hole. Yeah, there we are. Back to the camera. Okay, so this is actually, as a beginner piece, not too bad, but it looks a little bit bland because the lighting is just pretty flat. And also the legs don't really show much of an interest. They are white because, well, they're reflecting the white environment. So if I set this to 0.2, 0.1, you see how everything gets darker. So what do we do? Well, let's add another light. Let's go to add and light. I'm going to use an area light and then move this one up. Ah, look at that. There is more illumination happening. This light we make maybe 4 feet. The bigger a light, the softer the shadow, but also the weaker the light. The smaller the light, the stronger the shadow, and the more powerful actually the light is, because it's the same amount of power distributed from a smaller surface. So if, for example, you make this 8 feet and this is too weak, yeah, just pump this up, ponk, there we are. This may be a little bit too big of an area light because it's really washing out the shadows. Yeah, this is actually not too bad. Go to a side view. What's really interesting now is when you're new to this, move with G the light around and pay attention to what is happening. I'm rotating this light from the front. Oh, look at this beautiful reflection we have on the metal. See, now this really looks like chrome because it reflects really an environment that is more believable. If I go to top view, G and R, Shift D, G and R. Oh, look at now. There we get this really nice drop shadows. A little bit of color bleeding. The wood actually looks pretty good. Oh, we didn't do the wood material, by the way. So this should be there, 0.5. So it can have a little bit of reflection on it. And it's not plastic, so 0.2 for the reflection roughness. Yeah, no, this looks better. This looks like paper, like a print. And this here, what do we have there? 0.2. This can be pretty matte. Nothing is really not reflective. Everything has a certain level of reflection, so this really helps there a little bit. Okay, beautiful. No, it's not too bad. Now you see this. A light from the left, a light from the right. We get a really nice play also with the drop shadows. Shift A, make another light on top. Bring this up. And then we say here 4 feet. Well, because the chairs are more rectangular, not squarish. So in the arrangement, we go then this way. Maybe 4 feet and 6 feet. Okay, no, 6 feet and 4 feet. Yeah, maybe like this. Okay. And then G, move this to there. R to rotate it so the light goes back. And you just play around and pay attention to how this looks. What about 50? Ooh, way too strong. 20. How strong are these lights? I forgot they're 2020. Okay. Also very interesting then is at this point now, let's switch back to the outliner. We're going to set everything up a little bit. Right click, make a new collection. I double click, call this lights, and then click, control click, and we drag this in there. The camera we drag onto scene collection, we collapse this. Maybe here, this backdrop we drag out, double click, chairs, lights, double click, backdrop. So you see I'm adjusting my environment. Now I can actually turn this on and off. It actually looks pretty nice. That looks pretty nice. That's from the front and left, front and right. Now you can see how you can play with this stuff. Ideally, when you do working with lighting, you want to experiment. Maybe a really strong light from the right side. Oh, actually works, no? When we turn the others off, there. We have then this one. You see the right gets more light, the left is actually weaker. Oh, look at this beautiful illumination on the wood. You remember where we saw this before? There. Exactly the same. One common mistake I see with lights is students are too afraid to really work with strong contrast, etc. So increase the power. Here we make this a backdrop. There we are. We can make this artificially white. What happens when we make this actually dark? It looks also pretty good. We don't want to have any roughness. Oh, it's reflective. No, I don't want any reflection on it. It should just be a nice matte canvas paper. Oh, there we are. That's actually not too shabby. When we zoom in, we can see the highlights. On this gray chair, this works really well. The highlight is illuminated on it. The yellow chair is a tick underexposed, I find. Yeah, and it needs more light. That was too dark. So, one material I actually realized we are missing. The fabric. Shift middle mouse button, scroll wheel, zoom in. Move this up. When you make this window, actually where you render small, it also renders faster because it's a smaller preview area. Little trick. So we are going to add an input for texture coordinates, and then add a vector for mapping. UV goes in there. Shift A, or we go to add texture and image. There we are. Connect, and open. And then here we would like to have the fabric material. If we zoom in, this looks kind of crazy. That's because we have that denoising going on. So I turn this one off and maybe turn this to 20. There. Now I can actually see the noise, and sorry, not the noise, the pattern a tick better. Or Z and material preview. There we can see this. It's not rendered, it's more like texture mapping. What I can do now here is I could say 4, or this is the opposite, 0.1. There it is. This is maybe too big. 0.2, that's okay. There we can see how this wraps around, but here's an odd problem. So the thing is, this texture is mapped over individual segments. Let me show you the segments. Go to edit mode, select everything. They are our segments, no? So then this is like one segment piece. You see how here these elements. So we're doing a little trick. So we will switch this to from flat to box. Then this looks terrible. So we go to object. This is now the think about the size of the object. We can adjust this. We can adjust this even more. There we are back. And with box, the texture comes from left, right, top, bottom, front, back. It's a very easy hack. Works pretty good. The only downside is you get this seam here and there, but there's a small blend function. Don't make this blend too big because that looks obviously wrong. But as long as you're not really aware of it and you're not looking for it, this is going to fool everybody. Here something is wrong. Again, there's a beginner assignment, and texture mapping fabrics is actually quite complicated. But this is a very handy, gets it nearly done because we're rendering this quite from a distance. So you don't really see this. Last funny trick. So this is a fabric. We want to have a nice reflection and bump mapping. So Shift A, vector and bump. Put this onto height. This we take off. This goes in there. Z and or actually we don't need to do this because we see the bump mapping here. 0.2. So you see it simulates the structure by faking highlights and shadows by giving you the illusion of depressions and raised areas. So this bump mapping can work really well when we want to create fabrics. Z and rendered. So we can colorize this. Let's give this maybe an orange. And you see there is a little bit of a structure going on. When we give this a little bit of reflectivity, oh, you see the bump mapping is actually breaking up that highlight. There you see that. 0.2, 0.4. Now this is not vinyl. 0.1. There, this actually starts to look like there's a little bit of a shimmer effect on it. 0.05. And we can bring this back if we want to colorize it, or Shift A. Where's color? There. Mix color. Put this in there. We feed this texture into a mix function. Let's say red and blue. There you see now how this is colorizing it. So now what can we do with this? Well, we can, for example, say this is a bright orange and this is more yellow orange. You see? It's kind of cool actually. So this way we can colorize actually the fabric. We don't have to go into Photoshop and adjust the colors. We can do this right inside the software. Okay, we're done. To the camera, we're all good. Z and solid. We're going to render everything now. 100 samples will be fine. This image is a standard 1090 by 80. And then we go render. And there we'll see now it renders till 100 samples are done. And when this is finished, waits a second, then it denoises it, and we are good. So if we now go into view one-to-one, this is the actual size. You see here what I mean with the fabric. We don't really see this problem I pointed out. But the rest actually looks pretty solid, I would say. And with this, we reached the end of this exercise. Good job.